Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for our weekly show. Opening weekend is coming up on Saturday and Sunday. We'll be doing previews of those races, including the French Classics, and then a bonus Cobble Classic after that. We've got news, Giro d'Italia, wildcards revealed, E3's got a harder route, Arnaud Delis skipping Sanremo. The UCI is fighting SRAM and the teams with the team's money. Pauline Ferrand-Prévot's extended. Age insurance extensions, and Marc Soler is going to have some difficult questions to answer, maybe eventually, from a journalist, even though he was surprised, apparently, according to the Escape Collective, when he was asked about what his father was up to. So, lot to talk about. Giro wildcards, Benji. The Giro d'Italia is not on Join Cycling's events. I think it should be, so some pros can use it. Yeah, maybe they think Join would be better than their actual trainers, but a word on our show partner Join in a moment. But yeah, who's got the wildcards to the Giro?
I think there's a bit of context necessary here because we had the Tour de France wildcards given out 1.5 to 2 weeks ago. Caja got a wildcard and the Rockets did not get a wildcard, United Rose Rockets. So we were supposed to get a Giro wildcard release, I think, last week. And then the news just didn't come. We got Tirreno Adriatico wildcard news. We got Milano Sanremo wildcard news. And it really took quite a while, maybe 2 weeks in total, for the actual news to come out. So I'm wondering whether the Tour de France wildcards also surprised RCS, and then they might have changed up afterwards. I think there's a theory to be had there, but the eventual wildcards that the Giro d'Italia is revealing is, first of all, automatic wildcards were going to Tudor, Pinarello, and Cofidis. But Cofidis decided to refuse that wildcard to the Giro because I assume they want to focus on the French ChatGPT races, the 1.1 races in France during the month of May. So that leaves an extra voluntary wildcard. So there's now 3 in total instead of the usual 2, which is VF Group Bardiani, Polti Cometa, and Unibet Rose Rockets getting the last one there. So I want to first of all say, I think those wildcards are fair. Lastly, I want to ask you, Patrick, do we know what situation Cofidis is in right now? Because it's still the start of a 3-year cycle, but also on top of that, the 1-year cycles matter as well for pro teams for their obligatory wildcards for next year. Is it a good idea for Cofidis to skip the Giro d'Italia?
It depends. I think it might be more a commercial decision. Do they think it's just not worth it for them to do the Giro?
Yeah.
Because on a points perspective, you could send Anielkowski Fretin, and then for the Heliac sprints, Fretin, Anielkowski for the bunch sprints, you could still, you get a lot of points for 4th and 5th in Grand Tour sprints now. So I don't buy the skipping from a points perspective anymore, although maybe they just don't have the resources to do it. What races are on during the Giro? Morbihan, Trobro, Dunkirk, Flèche du Sud, these sort of races, Boucle de la Mayenne.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I guess you need a sprinter for those races.
I think it's okay. I think the decision is okay. I agree that I feel like UCI points have moved a little bit more towards the Grand Tour stages than they were, let's say, 3-4 years ago when 1.1 races were the gold mine, let's say. But I understand it from both a marketing point of view, and also because I think if Cofidis sends the top team to the Giro, I'm actually not that sure they can score that much in that Giro.
And they're doing 2 Grand Tours anyway. So it's a pro team that's already going to do 2 Grand Tours, and the Vuelta and Tour are back-to-back, and the Vuelta is also on when there's a lot of farming races in the late August, like Belgian, I don't know, GP Wallonie type operations. So I get it. And I also just don't care. And so it's good for the Rockets. Obviously, the 2 Italian teams, although Polti Cometa, they might technically be Spanish registered, but it's good that the Bardiani going and the Rockets. Yep, that's the Giro wildcards.
Actually,
Modern Adventure Pro Cycling, get them in.
One thing I do want to mention is, in the last couple of years, we've moved towards a system where the UCI only allows giving Grand Tour wildcards to the top 30 teams in the world. I don't think Vini, Fantini, whatever their team is these days, Nippo, Koratek, that team, I don't think they are in the top 30. If they had been, do you think they would have had the wildcard instead of the Rockets?
Probably, otherwise it's a bit
I think so
mean.
too.
Yeah.
I think it's a great rule by the UCI. I often criticize the UCI, and 99% of the time it's valid criticism, but in this case,
Yeah, I think it's a good rule.
credits to that rule.
Yeah, I think it's a good one. E3 has a harder route. They're doing an extra lap of the Caramel Milk Street and the Al de Quarmont from a new angle. They're saying the route is not harder, but it's unique now. Because, yes, obviously, when you first start watching cycling, you might ask yourself, why Friday, 8 days before the Tour of Flanders, do they do the Tour of Flanders before? And I guess, is that what they're trying to do here, Benji? Because Gent-Wevelgem, it is its own course on its own roads.
Yeah, but I don't agree with this storyline either. The route is not harder, first of all. That is factually incorrect. If you add an extra 2 climbs to the parcours, it is a harder race. That is objectively the case. There's more altitude meters across the parcours. It's slightly harder. Does that mean Pogacar is more likely to win than Mathieu van der Poel? I haven't looked at the in-depth parcours, the in-depth analysis of like, is that one climb too much for van der Poel to hold on to the wheel of Tadej Pogacar? I don't know. In RVV, that's usually the case right now. But you mentioned, why are they doing RVV the week before RVV? I didn't look at E3 and say, they're doing RVV the week before RVV. I know you portrayed it from a perspective of a new viewer to the sport, and I understand that. But there's a massive difference between the parcours of E3 2025 and RVV 2025. It's longer, the race. It's a solid 40 kilometers longer, 50 maybe, I don't know. I don't know if you have the exact kilometers in my head. More altitude meters, quite a bit more climbing following within a subset of kilometers. So within 30 kilometers, the amount of altitude meters are significantly higher at RVV. So that is why at an RVV in 2025, a Pogacar can drop Mathieu van der Poel at the end of the race, while in an E3, I would have expected them both to go to the line together, you know?
I think it makes it, just more likely that a Van der Poel solo winner, if he does it, or Pog. Has Pog won E3? Nah.
No.
Oh, there you go. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they want Pogacar on the Palmares.
There you go.
It's like Strade. You're trying to make the race harder, but in doing so, you're
no
going to make the
one
less...
turns up and for 2 years and like, maybe we should. Then Van der Poel, he said, right? It wasn't just Van der Poel said, pointless me doing it.
About Strade, eh?
Yeah, about Strade.
Yeah.
He said that. It's like pointless. So
I don't think he's going to say that about E3.
No,
I think it's still within the range of doable for Mathieu van der Poel. If not, he can follow Pogacar on that parcours. But I don't like this idea that every race needs to be the hardest in the world, when these slightly lighter races can often give a very fantastic... Remember the year where Pogacar, Van der Poel, and Wout van Aert were going to the line together at E3? Well, isn't it a perfect parcours? I never had an issue with the parcours of E3 at all.
Maybe they're just trying to mix it up. But yeah, we'll see.
Woke nonsense.
We saw a lot of the races that were hard earlier in the season. They've reverted, like the Andalusia Valencia routes were so soft. They made them incredibly, incredibly soft. And we'll see. But that was a change. Maybe we don't even notice when we watch it on TV. Maybe it amounts to nothing.
I'm going to disappear off screen for 30 seconds, Patrick.
Okay.
Hold the podcast down.
You go make yourself a coffee, Benji. Arnaud Delis is skipping Milano Sanremo. I quote from HLN. Milan Sanremo is not in my plans unless Pogacar and Van der Poel get sick 5 days before the race. I think that's unlikely. I have to be realistic. With 2 champions like them among the starters, I have no chance whatsoever. They are the strongest. Only on the Cipressa, I think the translation, on the Cipressa alone, they are able to put a minute into everyone else. And starting with that premise already, it would be a wasted day. It wouldn't make sense. I prefer to focus on something else. I think, first of all, they don't put a minute on everybody on the Cipressa. That's not true.
That's true.
Like they put 20 seconds on others on the Cipressa max. Secondly, there's no guarantee that the race unfolds exactly like last year every year. Again, forevermore. There's a lot of things can happen. Narvaez isn't there. He's not going to be there. And so there's no one to launch Pog. 2, Pog doesn't ride full to the top with Van der Poel not contributing his wheel. 3, Pogačar, if he's not dropped them, doesn't contribute with Van der Poel between Poggio and Cipressa because last year it didn't work. 4, more people follow that don't contribute that cause the group not to work. There's just no guarantee that it plays out the same way every year.
I think this whole occasion is a situation where, I don't know, the league giving an opinion. Let's say there's a race that is too hard for him and he realistically says, okay, this race in current conditions, impossible for me to win, I'll skip that race. I think that's a perfectly fine decision to make. I think the criticism that was thrown at the league for this was wrongly aimed in the sense that I agree with your take that what he says isn't necessarily true. That is what should be criticized, because the criticism that was thrown at him was more of like, okay, if Pogačar and Van der Poel are the obvious favorites and you don't start a race because of that, you might as well not ride any races. That's the wrong criticism for me. The right criticism for me is, Arno, you're wrong. MSR could be completely different this year. And therefore, it's actually valuable for you to ride it because, sure, maybe you get third like a Gross, for example, last year. But on top of that, we've seen passive editions as well on the same exact parcours with the same people being relevant riders where, yes, Pogačar blew up Cipressa last year, but that might not be the case in 2026. They might go for an alternative strategy, or that might backfire in the valley between Cipressa and Poggio. Who knows? So, do you know what I mean? Like the difference between the one criticism versus the other?
I get it. And if he said, listen, it's not that I can't follow Pog and Van der Poel, it's that when Pog makes the Cipressa so hard, I'm actually gone from Group 2 and I'm never coming back because of who I am. I don't think that's true. Like, there's just no way Groves, and maybe I'm not understanding his power profile correctly, but Arnaud Delis's a classic sprinter. Surely his 10-minute value is good enough to survive with those classicsy sprinter guys. And again, all due respect to Arnaud Delis, but he's never won a World Tour race, let alone podium one just about before August.
Tour stage, buddy.
No, before August in a year.
Yeah, that's true.
Sprinting for third in Sanremo is not beneath Arnaud Delis.
I agree with you. I think it's perfectly fine for Delis not to have Milano Sanremo on his schedule, but for this to be the reason is wrong.
Yeah, I guess it's two things, because like Pidcock's, I'm probably not going to beat them, don't know how to beat them. I'm going to prepare and try and turn up at the race anyway. You could say, well, actually, that's just burying your head in the sand. Arnaud Delis has the right idea because he's going to go to races he can win. I think, I actually don't know because I don't know his physical condition. Like, if they have really the data that he's done on Cipressa, then I guess it is true, don't turn up. But then that's nothing really to do with Van der Poel and Pogačar being unbeatable. Then my question would be, surely Delis has the talent that he should survive with Groves on Cipressa.
I think so as well, to be honest. I don't have much more to add to this discussion. I feel like Arnaud Delis, if he starts MSR, is always like a far outsider, I would say.
So is everyone. It's a lottery. That's why you do it 15 years straight to get right.
Not everyone, but...
Aaron Baru.
That's true. He becomes 7th in that race like every year, I feel like. But
yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Talking about getting 7th, do you think you could get 7th in Milano Sanremo if you were on the joint cycling training plan?
No.
I think I did this last year.
No.
I think we had the same exact
segue
last year.
Same segue last year. First of all, when I'm in shape, I'm like, it's Remy Rochas 2.0. So can Remy Rochas get... Maybe he can do well in Sanremo, but I don't think I could. But don't let that stop you. Don't let that stop you. Joint Cycling has plans for everybody. We're all different shapes and sizes. We're all different levels, all different availability, and you can adjust it to your needs, whether you got loads of time, less time. It's got plans that'll take you to like level 50 is literally like World Tour level rider, and it has plans for that level. And there's level 1, which is you're starting from absolute scratch. So Join Cycling has something for everybody. You can adjust it on the fly. It adjusts on the fly. There's a desktop view now for people that like to look at their data. You can see your whole plan coming up, plan it. Or if you don't care, you can just open your phone and be like, all right, I got to do like 45 minutes of tapping away today. Or maybe it's 3 hours with efforts. You'll be surprised how simple, though, the plans and workouts are, and yet you still get better. So go check out Join Cycling. They've been a consistent supporter of the show for years as our show partner, and also they got the weekly show off the ground, which is now a bit of a hit. I love doing the weekly show. What did we do? How did we cover,
mate?
Like things rants. Before the weekly show, just rants in recap.
Random rants in the middle of a recap, and then at the end of the recap, we would say like, did anything else in cycling happen this week?
Yeah.
And then we forget about what happened, and then people in the comments would tell us to go into that topic, and then the next podcast we'd forget it again, and that we'd never go into it. So the weekly show, for example, a topic that we haven't really gone into too much, the UCI is going to fight SRAM with safer money. Now, to kind of go back here a little bit, this is all related to the UCI wanting to introduce gear limits on the gears of the bikes, of course. And I feel like this whole process, if from externally, it looks like that process went from maybe starting as a rider survey with the CPA initially, which is the riders union, then resulting in Safer, which is kind of an organization within the sport that is looking to improve the safety of the sport. The Safer organization had quite a bit of political trouble to get started to begin with, some infighting I felt like, but then eventually it brought some proposals forward, and then the UCI proposed solutions for those proposals, which was handlebar widths and gearing limits, etc. Now, those two exactly have caused a bit of trouble in the last 6-7 months, I would say, but specifically, Patrick, to this gearing limits issue. What is the issue that SRAM has with the rule being 54/11, for example, which apparently benefits Shimano over SRAM?
Well, SRAM would be the only group set manufacturer that would have their basically their cassettes or their gear ratios prohibited by the proposed rule. And then the suggested fix was that like they could mechanically stop so the teams using SRAM for the trial. So it was supposed to be a trial in the Tour of Guangxi, which by the way has one descent across the whole week of racing.
Great idea.
Which is also on a massive road. No one crashes there. So I don't know what you're going to learn from that. And that other thing is why the teams opposed it, because say you do the test, no one crashes. You're like, it made cycling safer. It's like, well,
the UCI does this all the time, by the way. All the time. They brought out a whole report about yellow cards a week and a half ago, comparing to the past, saying it's safer, which I think the yellow card system is good, but it's far from harsh enough, and it's not good at disincentivizing riders from breaking rules and getting yellow cards because it doesn't punish riders enough at all. If like a DS literally got a suspension in January, it's 7 days, and he had no races planned in those 7 days. He had zero consequences to his actions. So there's all these small issues with that. But I'm going on a rant, Patrick. I'm going on a rant.
Yeah, but they made a very concrete conclusion that yellow cards had like made cycling safer.
And there was no data to base that on.
And we don't have the historical crash data to draw. I think it has. I think it has probably influenced behavior a little bit. Not enough of a deterrence, otherwise Danny Van Poppel would stop deviating. But we just don't know because we don't have historical crash data, I don't think, done chronologically with causes, etc. But anyway, it was the teams, or SRAM rather, went to a Belgian competition authority. The Belgian competition authority then said this test cannot go ahead. It was an injunction against the UCI. The UCI had to release a statement within 24 hours saying they weren't going to do the test, and that because it was like discriminatory against SRAM as well as the competition authority ruling on it. Anyway, the UCI intends to appeal it, which is unsurprising because they want to go ahead with it. But the really surprising thing is that, yeah, they're going to use 300,000 euros, not an insignificant sum of money, to, or maybe if you're a Magic Circle law firm, it's like a couple of long lunches, but it's not an insignificant amount of money to the teams. And they're going to fight it with the money from Safer, which is from the teams.
Yeah.
So Safer is supposed to be it's a structure. I'm reading from the UCI website. It's the structure dedicated to safety in men and women's road cycling. It brings together representatives of all stakeholders in the road cycling, organizers, teams, riders, and the UCI. If it's a structure from all the stakeholders, why is the 300K from the teams?
Yeah.
If it's in a Safer pot.
Do we know if it's all from the teams? Or is it just partially from the teams?
Like if the money is proportionally put into Safer,
yeah,
then from the how many 1, 2, 3, 4 stakeholders, then is it actually 70? How was
75K?
75K up from the teams, or is it a 1.2 million? I don't know.
Can I be honest? Those itty bitty details, I don't care about those details. For me, it's more the principle of the UCI fighting SRAM with Safer money is already a weird thing. But then I look at how did this come to happen? Because if Safer is an organization with 4 stakeholders involved, then those 4 stakeholders are voting, for example, on what Safer does and whether the Safer money can be used for that. And that's where it gets interesting. I was shocked to find out that the Riders Union, the CPA, which, bit of background, the CPA is a non-independent riders union. It is partially funded by the UCI, which is a bit of a conflict of interest, I would argue. But do you think that plays an element in the fact that the CPA voted for using Safer money to fight SRAM?
It's very strange. So Adam Hansen, there was criticism of this, and he wrote an article or column in Domestique, and saying, I need to make a statement about the SRAM UCI case that involves the CPA. Some context needs to be added. And he gives examples where the CPA supported the gear ratio test.
Yeah.
Because it includes rider feedback. Because the CPA, responds to rider feedback. They did so when about the 3 kilometer rule and the 5 kilometer rule extensions.
That's fine.
They did about race radios. But then, and also he makes a very good point that some riders and a lot of riders are forced to use products they have no choice in, and if they make a complaint about, will get into trouble with the team. He gives the example of hookless tires. It's a good example. Some riders probably think they're not the safest thing to use. And so you do need a body like the CPA representing the interests of the riders. Where he loses me is that he gives example, like when there's a wet weather or bad weather scenario in a race, the riders take a vote. They have CPA WhatsApp groups. And I assumed the riders majority voted for the CPA to support this appeal. And the CPA, I think they were like the deciding vote for this pool of money and for the appeal to go ahead. But Hansen says the UCI's position in supporting the UCI in this case is based on a vote by the national associations.
That is confusing to me.
Yeah, I don't understand it. So like the whole process of like the CPA's governance of how it makes decisions is maybe it's beyond me. Maybe I could find it somewhere, but I just assumed he would have put it to the stakeholders, i.e. the riders. Do you want 300K to be used in this appeal and for the gear ratio test to maybe go ahead by winning this appeal? And then I assumed 51% plus of the riders voted yes. Is that true?
This seems like an attempt to excuse that the UCI, that the CPA never had an internal vote on this happening in the first place. And I'd be surprised because the way that article from Adam Hansen, that column comes across is as if the riders' majority would agree on that money being used to do this. I do not believe for a second that is the case.
He says if the UCI does not follow through, then safer has no purpose. I think that's not the logical conclusion I would draw. If the UCI has received a ruling from a competition authority that the test they were going to do was unlawful, I don't think that
unlawful.
I don't think that means, well, maybe not.
You know, the lesson that should be pulled out of this is twice in the last year, the UCI has brought forward a proposed solution in response to a safer proposal that was unthought through enough, is how I'd classify it. Handlebar whiffs sounded like they forgot about women's cycling in total, and smaller riders being a thing like yourself, Patrick. And then when it comes to this gear limits, it's as if they forgot that not every cassette is the same. You know, it's like not every cassette company has the same exact cassette, what do you call it? Not dimensions, setup.
But like, also there's been feedback from people within the industry showing that like the gear ratio change, like I said, hey Benji, would you rather crash at 90 or 91?
I think both I'd be pretty hurt.
So yeah, why didn't Davide Stella? Why was he using the gearing that would have been outlawed? Oh wait, he wasn't in the descent of the Alula Tour at 115 kilometers an hour. He was going 115. Like the gearing, when the high speed crashes, they're not pedaling, dude, because they're going 115 kilometers an hour.
Now, Luke also mentioned the following. I remember looking that up last week. Shimano is also a UCI sponsor on top of that, which is another small conflict that has not been mentioned a lot in this discussion. Can I be really honest? I am sick of the way the sport of cycling is set up in terms of its government structure. My proposal, Patrick, UCI and ASO are never going to accept what I'm about to say here, but I believe the UCI in its current form should be abolished. It should be replaced by a joint board with representation from the AIGCP, which is the teams, the AIOCC, which is the races. The UCI would be sole responsible for regulatory oversight, not more than that. So kind of like the is it called the FIA in Formula One?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like they're responsible for like rules implementation, having commissaires,
and anti-corruption within the whole thing.
But like dictating whether your team can be, like what your sponsor can look like or something. They can't have a say in that.
And then also an independent riders union, because I do not believe in the current way the CPA is set up. There's too much connection to the UCI within that to believe that it can make independent decision-making outside of the UCI on stuff like this. And then a few independent experts in like media, finance, and safety. I think that would be a much better setup for the sport. And I think that's similar to the way Formula One is now set up in current day. And that is not like a declaration of, I want some super league to happen. No, this is completely separate from the way the sport itself is set up. This is about the governance structure above it. Because right now, all the power looks like it is with the UCI, which is kind of controlled by ASO in many instances, because ASO is such a big player that it holds power over the UCI. I think the power should be more spread across the stakeholders, and then we could move towards a revenue structure within the sport that actually shares with teams, that has a more centralized system when it comes to the broadcasts of, let's say, a certain set of World Tour races that is bundled, like you've been shouting from the rooftops in the last couple of years. And apparently that is what the PCC or whatever it's supposed to be called was supposed to do years ago, but that's under this UCI, so that was never going to work. So, yeah, I don't know.
Well, the UCI, so other news, they just released a letter, or sent a letter to the teams, the organizers, the riders, called Reform of Professional Cycling. And I think Luke dug up that this was originally on Lepartien's first presidency ticket.
Correct.
Was economic reform. And so this is actually something he's wanted to do. It's what he got elected on in the first instance, but it's asking for contributions or feedback on a number of things, including the calendar and participation, economic model, fan engagement, safety, integrity of results. I don't know. Should I do 500K worth of free consultancy for the UCI, Benji? Or, like that's the no, but
they haven't sent it to podcasters. I'm afraid the letter.
But I think the UCI they're happy for there to be change, but where
as long as they stay in power.
Yeah. So,
and that is one of the problems with the current setup. UCI and ASO have too much power. If they wanted teams to have more share in revenue, they could have put in a plan in place 10 years ago.
But the UCI has to go against ASO then. For there to be change, the UCI has to go against ASO. Otherwise, the teams are forced to try to splinter.
It's completely unrealistic because it's never going to happen. Those two parties are too beloved with their situation in power.
Because this is how you do it. You do, if you believe like the World Tour, if you want to be in the World Tour, you want your race on the World Tour calendar, you must put your broadcasting rights into the pot.
Yes.
And you can still sell them, and it would probably be best for everybody if ASO still took responsibility for selling their own rights, because maybe for everybody's and takes a clip, because I think like the Giro rights are still not sold for this year, and ASO, they sell them. There's, in big deals 10 years in advance, but the rights have to go into a pot. And then there's, revenue. Then you can actually sell, hey, broadcaster, do you want the World Tour package, let's say? Or you can, the UCI, new idea, very novel. The UCI has an app. Now on this app, it has races. You can watch the races live from any country in the world with a paid subscription. That paid subscription then gets distributed amongst the stakeholders.
I think that's fair. But how do you look at the free-to-air coverage in France then, for example, for the Tour de France? Would that be removed to only be portrayed by the UCI subscription app? Because then the fans won't be happy, eh?
No, then you have you can still have blackouts. You can just black out if you have a free-to-air coverage, then you can't watch the Tour de France on the app in France if you're in France. I mean, that's normal. So
okay.
Luke is saying it still gets sold to EBU, but we got to have a more coordinated, cohesive rights distribution across at least the bigger races.
The one important thing for me, though, is that we don't get into a situation as a cycling fan personally where you then look at, okay, how are World Tour licenses done, etc. Because then everything's you can change everything if you've got the power in a shared status, Are we then going to change the way the current competition itself is set up? Because I would probably change quite a few things about the sport of professional cycling, but I would keep some kind of relegation system. I don't want a closed league.
Yeah, I like the promotion relegation. But
it should be based on the points in World Tour races for World Tour teams. But
absolutely.
Do you then need playoffs against the pro teams? How do you do that?
No, the pro teams. No. The worst two World Tour teams are going down.
Oh, yeah. I'm fine with that. But it needs to be yearly, not every 3 years.
Oh, that's a tough sell for sponsors of teams.
I think it's better because you're not stuck in pro teams in Pro Tour for 3 years.
Anyway,
you can go back the next year.
I'm skeptical. You can give feedback on the count, but what can you tell the UCI that they don't already know? Hey, Paris-Nice and Tirreno Adriatico, maybe they shouldn't be on at the same time. Why? If they control the calendar already, so why have you not changed it? Because it involves a hard conversation with somebody who's going to be unhappy. So anyway, maybe I shouldn't be so cynical. Maybe I should send a 30-page report with all my ideas. Maybe we'll see. But
I don't think
I'm going to be less cynical. If you have, it's an open letter. It's on the UCI's website.
It's an open letter, not to the public, though.
True.
It's to Teams, and so there's no email address on there where you can send. I would have sent a fucking gigantic document by now if there was an email address at the bottom.
Yeah. Like, you know, some of the people that listen to like this podcast and follow cycling, that they're very experienced people and intelligent people in governance of business.
Can I drop a hot take? I think 95% of our audience has a higher intelligence than the average UCI employee.
No,
because they're listening to our podcast. 95%
is pretty high. Like, I've seen some of the Twitter and YouTube comments,
and to be fair, whenever you go on a rant, everybody's IQ starts dropping. Here.
I've been killing their brain cells progressively over the years, so I don't know about that. But anyway, I do want to encourage people. The response date is by 30 April 2026. I actually don't know if you can just send a public submission. I think if you haven't like intelligent, thought out things that you want to say, that you know, the public should be able to. But anyway, it's there on the UCI website, and have a look at it if you're interested. What was the next agenda item? Sorry, I just got distracted. My sister-in-law's just had a baby, and she was wearing a Tug Buddy t-shirt while she gave birth because it was the first thing she picked up. True story.
That is something. I don't even know what you say.
It's the merch. I just didn't think with
Is that also the name of the kid? Tug Buddy Bro?
Push Buddy merch. Push Buddy. Anyway, shout out to her. They're doing well. Pauline Ferrand-Prévot's extended until 2028. That's when the LA Olympics are on. And so that's unsurprising. She says she's happy at Viz Melissa bike. Age Insurance, Soudal, both sponsors have extended until 2030. So what does that mean? That's just the women's team?
Yes, the women's team. So Age Insurance and Soudal have both. Those sponsors have extended to 2030. Quite a few riders also have extended with the team as well, including the likes of Gigard, Lord de Schepper, and so forth. And I went boots on the ground, Patrick, to the team presentation. I don't go to many team presentations. Only teams that I actually like. I'm passionate to see their future about. I was quite invested in meeting Sarah Gigante and so forth. And plug Patrick. There's a interview on my YouTube channel, on Benji Nassen's YouTube channel, with Kim Lecor-Pinar, with Sarah Gigante and Jolien Dore, the DS. So I think it was a fun. Have you bothered listening yet, Patrick?
I've actually been on the move, so I haven't listened yet.
You're literally in your office. Where have you been moving?
No, I went to it was Eliza's birthday. So okay. Yeah, we had to go. Went to the no free ads, but Priorat region near Tarragona. Really nice. So no, I've been incommunicado until I sat down here about an hour ago for a meeting and then this pod.
Shameful friendship. What can I say?
So tonight I have to cut you. I have a content backlog, and I want to hear what KLCP. you sent me excerpts, but then some of the excerpts, she's like, I don't listen anymore. I was like,
spoilers.
No. So you have to hear our answer to that. So go check out that content. Marc Soler. There's a long form article, so there's a follow up. We initially said that his father, Jaume Soler, had been sanctioned for anti-doping. That was like a short article. There's now a long form one on Ciclo 21, the website, and it's like a feature, and it goes really in depth. They've obviously been leaked documents from the Guardia Civil or whoever that goes through a full chronology about the key day where CELAD, which is the Commission for the Fight Against Doping in Sport, that's the English translation, it's the Spanish State Commission that does that. There were anonymous complaints to that body, I think from maybe other professional cyclists in Andorra, and then let me correct that. The case originated in 2023 with anonymous complaints from several cyclists, including a Spanish member of a pro team, to the CELAD mailbox created specifically for such reports. And then it goes through and says basically the body was surveilling Marc Soler, Pepe Marti, the prohibited person in question, and they met in Adral, which is and I think, so there's a climb, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go out of Andorra, especially in this time of year, and you go out of Andorra, you go down to Losail, turn right, and it's so strange reading this because, and then there's a loop you can do past Adral, which is like, pretty nice, like moderate climbs, all the cyclists do it.
But I just want to simply recap the situation, as in initially it was an anti-doping violation against Soler's dad, which was for prohibited association, which is basically if you meet this doping doctor from the past, you don't even need to do anything with that doping doctor.
I think you do have to be coached or trained by them.
Okay. There needs to be like a viable connection is how I classify it then in my English words. Then you automatically get an anti-doping violation because of that prohibited association, because Pepe Marti is an ex-US Postal Armstrong back in the day coach, which is on the prohibited list of prohibited associations. Now, what I'm reading in this Cyclo 21 article is that Marc Soler is now involved in that meeting in some sense.
In the investigation, he is who they're investigating, not the father.
Okay. And the sentence that came to me most is Marc Soler had to Marc Soler had arranged to meet his father, who in turn had arranged to meet Marti. And that's an important thing for me because some people read that sentence and said, well, why is it illegal for Marc Soler to meet up with his dad? It's not that simple. It's all at the same time. If Marc Soler meets up with his father, who arranged to meet up with Pepe Marti, who is the prohibited associative person, then technically Marc Soler and Pepe Marti were also going to meet in that meeting. Is that a correct deduction from this article?
It's strange because like apparently the father was in like plain clothes, not in cycling clothes. So
what was it with Soler going back and forth towards the meeting?
Yeah, he saw the checkpoint. So the strange thing is, and I think Thijs Zonneveld said this as well, and I first thought it's you would not go to this much effort to get a lactate test from someone who's like, they know they shouldn't be meeting this guy, surely.
Yeah.
Like, or interacting with him. And like a lactate test, I mean, I could do it for €100 if he paid me. Like, it's not rocket science to do one. I mean, the teams would do one. Anytime you go to a camp, let's do a lactate test. So you only do it the only reason you do it if this guy was also coaching you.
Yeah.
So to be clear, I mean, Luke says there's many riders who do it. It's pretty commonplace now that riders, when they're at home, they do it themselves at the end of intervals and then send the results to their trainers.
Pershka does it for Pogacar.
Yeah. So you don't need, why would you have your man? Why would he have to drive to the middle of nowhere, Port del Canto?
Yeah.
Even if it's for the dad who's likes training and playing clothes. So
there's no conclusive evidence, but it is very suspicious.
So to be clear, there is no photo, I believe, of Marti conducting a lactate test or any form of training with Marc Soler. They haven't, and that would have been, if that had happened, probably then this would have become public 3 years ago in 2023 when it happened. Yeah. No proof. The father has been has acknowledged. Well, yeah, he's the one that's been given the suspension. Marc Soler claims, and he said this to the Guardia Civil, that the reason for meeting with his father, according to this article, was to give him a black Solomon brand backpack, and that he's had no professional connection to Pepe Marti. So, that's there's no proof otherwise because he's riding.
I do think it's very valuable reporting because from my perspective, there is not that much investigative journalism within the sport of cycling. And it is very good to see both Cyclo 21. Wait, is it Cyclo 21? Yes, it is. Yeah. Sorry, I want to get the name right here. Cyclo 21 and Escape Collective, both reporting on this. That shows a lot about those two journalistic media platforms.
Can't this be like disproven in a single press release? Isn't he? He's being trained by the team.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're the team, you can see what he did that day in the file. I mean, if he didn't do 5x8 mins with 20 watt increasing increments, and you didn't give him a lactate test, and he just rode around endurance, then you say, look, he didn't even do a lactate test. We have the file. Like, what are you talking about?
Can those files be altered?
No, I mean, you can delete a file.
Yeah.
But I'm saying if you wanted to get ahead of it. But Luke is saying, yeah, you can change the date metadata. But no, I'm saying if you're the team, you'd be worried. If you're the team reading this, you'd be worried.
Yeah.
They're reading this report, and you'd want to do your own due diligence and check, okay, hold on. Oh, no, he cruised around, did a 3-hour endurance ride, no lactate test. He's trained by the coach.
If you're the team, you probably heard something about it when the Guardia Civil was talking to Soler back in the day, no? You don't publicize about it at that time because there's no conclusive evidence.
I don't know.
But that's my assumption.
Yeah, but why would he inform the team?
Is there no contractual requirement for a rider when in contact with Guardia Civil related to potential doping violations to tell anything to the team?
Depends what's in his contract.
I don't know, man.
I don't know. We don't know. So, yeah, to be clear again, Marc Soler says he has no professional relationship and never has with Marty, and as such has not been sanctioned either. So, I would say the reporting of this is accelerated. I did not I first read the Escape Collective piece, I thought, okay, like, you know, strange story, but what of it? And then the level of detail I did not expect, and frankly, we haven't seen this level of detail reported on a case before actual sanctions. I can recall almost ever, except the
within our era, I would say, of the sport. Maybe back in the day there was more, but
yeah,
I was not born yet I was born already in the Armstrong era, but I only jumped into cycling later, you know?
Yeah. Anyway, it's I'll say it's a little bit disconcerting. Is my general feeling about it. So we'll see if anything else comes out. Okay, other news, race previews. Omloop this weekend. Time. Yep, it's time.
Patrick, Santos Down Under is your start to the season, but I am legally, I'm in Belgium now. New background behind me for the people watching on YouTube. So I am legally bound to tell you the start of the season is on Saturday, Patrick. Omloop.nieuwsblad is coming. And there's actually a bit of a parkour change in the parkour. It's not the biggest deal, but the run-up to the Muur van Gerardsberg in the second last climb of the route. You've got Muur Bosberg as the final two climbs. Before that, there's two climbs that are replaced. I think it was the Valkenberg and the Elverenberg or something. They've been replaced by Ten Bosse and Parikeberg, which I don't know how much is going to influence the race. To me, it feels like
the wind organization matters more in Omloop.
What, sorry?
The wind matters more in Omloop, I think, than a hill here or there.
I think so too. Maybe it's slightly harder to organize a chasing peloton on those hills than it is on the wider road that I remember from the last two editions. But I think the difference is going to be negligible. I agree that the wind matters more. And right now, it's still early, obviously, because Saturday is the race. We're recording this weekly show on Wednesday. There's tailwind to be announced in the final based on the current projections, which, whatever that's worth, you can judge. But tailwind means, on paper, slight benefit to attackers, right?
Yeah, especially compared to last year. Last year, we had an unusually large group sprint, and that was in part because of the strong headwind and also the way the race panned out. But yeah, there was a headwind from memory. And looking at the wind direction on the weekend, I mean, it's forecasted a lot of crosswind, 20 kph plus. It is still 3-4 days out, of course, but there is crosswind predicted. And then, like Benji said, reasonably strong 20 kph, 22 kph tailwind, cross tailwind to the finish after the Bosberg. That is screaming attackers.
That is screaming attackers, but that doesn't mean it completely negates sprinters either, because the passive race last year was not just because of the weather. I feel like it was also decision by multiple teams. When I look at the start list for this race, Patrick, there's maybe 4 teams that shout, or maybe 5 teams that shout attacking, and a bunch of other teams that have both a sprinting option and some attacking options. And the 5 teams that I would say, okay, are the attacking teams is, first of all, UAE Team Emirates. They've got Wellens with Vermeersch. You've got Bahrain with the Mohoric, but that's one of the lesser attacking teams, I would say. Pinarello Q46.5 with Pidcock. And I think you've also got Mathieu van der Poel on Alpecin. They also have Philipsen though. But I'm used to, in these kind of races, Alpecin pulling the card of Mathieu van der Poel, being able to open the race themselves and then back up into Philipsen when necessary.
And Philipsen makes him more likely to win
in the first place. Go ahead, sorry.
And Philipsen being negative makes it more likely Van der Poel wins because he's messing the groups up.
Yeah. There was a 5th team as well, but I forgot who the 5th team was.
Okay. It's a strong start list, I would say, for opening weekend. You've got Quick-Step with, Magnier in good shape and 2 new signings who are classics guys, top classics guys in Van Baarle and Sturven. I think Pedersen normally doesn't do it, so he's not a miss, but Trek are a little bit hobbled.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see Coy here and Benoit on Decathlon. So they're missing. But otherwise, it's looking very, very strong.
Ineos is an attacking team too, in my opinion.
Yep.
Turner, you can't really solely focus on getting a reduced sprint. So I see more attacking in that. But first line, Patrick. Mathieu van der Poel, last minute decided to go to this race. He was pretty good at some Benidorm CX thing. I don't know what that is, but he's pretty good on a bicycle when it comes to cobble races. He is the all-out favorite for this race on paper, right?
He doesn't. The reason he's starting is because he thinks he can win.
Yeah.
He's never done the race before. He obviously wants to add it to his palmarès. So also the wind conditions are good for him, which, I doubt they'll change to be completely the opposite. They might strengthen or weaken, but not. I doubt we'll have a headwind. So it's a good opportunity for him. And it does make the team with Edward Plankart Groves, Philipsen, and Van der Poel. It's still a pretty good team, even though they have lost a couple of decent mid-level, Vermeersch and Kielich, but and Krah a couple of years ago. Yeah, Trek, they don't have Milan except for Kerner. So they're all out attacking. There's no way they hold on for Teudenberg, and it'll be Vacek, Krah, if he's healthy, Philipsen, the younger, and Scoins attacking.
Visma I do want to talk about.
Yep.
Wout van Aert, Affini, Mathieu, Brennan, Hagenes, Kielich, Laporte, and Zengle. Van Aert, he had his ankle injury. Is that what you call it? An ankle? Yeah, I think it is. That's English, right?
Yeah.
He had an ankle injury throughout the last couple of months. And he's now returning for the first road race after, it feels like 3-4 weeks since we had the news where he couldn't necessarily train to the fullest yet. So I'm a little bit worried about Wout van Aert's return, that he might not be at a super powerful level, which is understandable. So I don't necessarily have Wout van Aert as like the second favorite in this race as a consequence of that. I would also look at the other people within the team as potential leaders, which Laporte obviously had his crash at Andalusia.
Yeah.
Yes, I was mixing up Algarve and Andalusia in my head for a second there. So we don't know how much that has impacted him, but I'd like to assume that it won't be the biggest influence for Omloop. Then the first series character is, I think, someone who has been underrated by recency bias, Patrick, because everybody talks about Paul Magnier, which, valid, he won 2 races at Algarve, but I personally believe that if Paul Magnier survives in a 30-man group at omloop.nieuwsblad, Mathieu Brennan should also still be there.
No, Brennan.
And between the two, there's just as much chance of Brennan winning.
I think that's fair enough. And maybe you even give the edge to the lead out of Brennan Because if it's a 30-man group, then you have the door there, maybe Kielich there, and Van Aert should be there. And that's a good lead out. So, and lead outs do matter even in a 30-man group sprint in omloop, especially with the high speed we should have. So, I think I agree. I mean, yeah, could Manier do what
Ballerini did?
Brennan did in Coppa Bernocchi last year? Probably not. So
it's Coppa Bernocchi, sorry, but we're not gonna look at Coppa Bernocchi.
No,
now.
Actually good level style this, but
the Catalunya stage, when it's something Manier, when it comes to versatility, wouldn't be able to pull off, in my opinion.
Yeah, Manier just hasn't survived the Cobble Classics as I'd expect, because his 2, 3, 4 minute power should be decent, but we'll see. He's in good shape. I think Quick-Step are not going to race negatively for Manier, though. I think they paid Sturban and Van Baal too much money to let them race negatively.
Stuyven was ill at Algarve, though, so that's an element there. Van Baarle was pretty good when it comes to GC in that race, as in he got 10th, I think, on Mayao, which isn't the longest climb in the world, but still a proper performance by Van Baarle. The thing I'm worried about Van Baarle is everybody's talking about his performance being back at a level where he can be competitive, which I fully agree with, but I'm still worried about the positioning. Have we seen progress throughout 2025 of his positioning getting better in important moments? Because that's how he missed quite a lot of important moments at the Classics, not only performance, but also because he was seemingly scared to position himself near the front.
Yeah, that's the thing. We'll see on opening weekend if the positioning is fixed, and if the races are suiting the way he used to race and he won Dwars door Vlaanderen, and moving at 50Ks to go. Is that possible?
I think it is here, by the way.
I think
at Omloop, Molenberg it is.
Omloop with the but you got to be in position for Molenberg. I mean, the race split because of the crash on Molenberg last year. Molenberg's hectic leader, so yeah, he has to be in position.
Wolvenberg before that, try and anticipate before the Molenberg and try and be ahead, which that's always a bit of a gamble, but you can always try. Van Baarle is a bit of an engine.
Anyway, it's a decent Quick-Step team. Casper Pedersen, top 10 E3 last year from anticipating. No Jorgensen for Visma, though. So arguably their best Classics rider in positioning and definitely their best opening weekend rider last year, not starting. So can Kielich and Zangler make up for that? We'll see. Kielich, Affini, and Van Aert have been at altitude. And Zangler looked good in the last stage of Andalusia. UAE, Vellens, I know you're high on him, Benji. Andalusia, I wasn't too impressed, I must say. He's already been racing for quite a while, but in Jaén, he was obviously very good. So he'll be good, especially in Kern. He's always good, Tim Wellens. Oliveira, Milano, if it's a sprint, I don't think he'll survive. Pollitt, who nearly won this when Tratnik finessed him in 24, and Vermeersch.
Yes. I will also want to mention Pidcock at Pinarello, because he was pretty good in the final stage of Andalusia. Good. So hypothetically, if Van der Poel goes somewhere on a hill, wouldn't shock me if Pidcock's in the wheel for quite a bit. He's the kind of puncher that might be able to follow on that territory, while
on a Barendrees for sure.
Also, go ahead, sorry.
On a Barendrees has to be quite hard and long.
Wellens is also the kind of character where the Barendrees then usually fits him those kind of climbs, but also Bosberg usually fits him quite well as well. So level-wise, I expect something there, but you pointed out to me personally this morning, which is rightful, that Wellens also doesn't have the sprint, so he needs to ride away solo, which on the climbs won't happen. But then, hypothetically, if a group forms like the edition where... Was it the edition Wout van Aert rode away or Van der Poel rode away in the flat section before Bosberg?
Yeah, Van Aert 22.
That scenario where then on those flat sections, that's Wellens could attack and get away territory.
Maybe. I think
but only those kind of scenarios.
I think a few things would have to happen.
Of course.
Trekker having a shit race and Visma having a shit race. Because
the thing with Trek is, Vodsik said he wasn't focusing on getting at his best level in February. So it seems like he's more trying to get at his best level by the time the big classics end, which is a bit unfortunate because I would have liked to see him at a great level here. They need him with no
Pedersen, no Milan.
What, sorry?
With no Pedersen or Milan, they actually need him.
Yeah. And also Albert Philipsen, what's he going to be worth on this parkour? I hope good. Would be cool to see a youngster do well. Are we going to see Arnaud de Lee being quite attacking? I haven't been completely sold on him this year so far, but omloop has been good for him in the past, 2024 and maybe 23. So there's lots of also with Red Bull, for example, they've got a similar team as last year, including Jordi Meeuws, the Van Dijk brothers, then Lawrence Piffy in that team here as well. Johnny Vermeers, that's a strong team in terms of individual riders, but it went completely sideways last year when they started using Jordi Meeuws as an early domestique, which in a passive race like last year is a big mistake. Now, this year, I think Jordi Meeuws should be the sprinting option. They shouldn't use him as a domestique. But I do think the other riders individually should be quite strong to try and jump into moves, etc. I just wish we get back to a point where we see Lawrence Piffy, 2024?
Yeah, 24 when he was on a Groupama. His opening weekend, he was unreal.
So Wevelgem too.
I would love, yes, he was very good there. I'd love to see that. I'm so pumped. I mean, there's so many. You don't know the exact shape. I mean, what's Stefan Kung in Tudor colors looking like in a classic for the first time? Is it a help? Is it a hindrance? What about Thibaut Gruel? Oh, I'm looking at Thibaut Gruel.
Get out of here.
Varenshold, they're bringing Jonas Abrahamsen. He's been at altitude for two years preparing for this race. What if Abrahamsen gets a gap?
It's possible.
In a tailwind.
Completely possible, but to finish this off, I do want to ask you, Patrick. I want a favorite for the attacking option and for the sprint option. For me, it's kind of boring. I'm going with Van der Poel and Brennan.
Yeah, I agree with you, to be honest. Because I also think if Van der Poel goes ham on the... Wellens always good on the Moor, actually.
I hope Paul Monnier... what do you call it? Proves us wrong, though. Because I'd like to see Quickstep have the real threat in their classics. But I'm struggling with the versatility of Manier to be able to survive the attacking option.
I think it's a good balance, but I do think Manier is their best option to win.
I think he's more of an option for Kuurne, actually. And Milan's there, of course.
Depends on the wind conditions. I think Milan can't climb. He can't climb.
Remember when we were talking about Jonathan Milan could win Milano-Sanremo some year?
Yeah, fine.
That year we died. Yeah. But hey, are we complaining? He shouldn't complain either. If you can win 4 sprints every race you do,
exactly, yeah,
then it's a right decision to become less versatile.
Who am I going to pick for this old race? Give me the door.
Christophe Laporte is your pick.
Yeah, give me the door.
If I have to go anywhere else outside of Mathieu van der Poel and Brennan, then I think it's actually quite difficult, to be honest. Because there's a lot of riders. This is the kind of race where there's a lot of riders that could potentially win in general. And then I have to try and look at which outsider has then I would go for a Pidcock as my third pick outside of those two.
Pidcock, his watts on that Andalusia climb were really good. Kuurne is a different race. There's longer hills congested together, but then 50 Ks of flat to the finish. If we look at the wind conditions, again, there it is forecasted, I think 5 days out we are.
Patrick.
Yes?
I don't know if you can see me right now, but I'm in this situation on YouTube right now where so much light is coming from this window. It's as if I'm in the last scene of The Two Towers, where Gandalf is about to storm over the hills, and I'm one of the orcs that's trying to keep him off, and he does his light thingy in my eyes. This is what I'm feeling right now.
Fair enough.
Well, I cannot read our notes anymore. I'm going to have to improv the rest of the podcast back.
I'll tell you then, Kuurne has tailwind, cross tailwind predicted to the finish. Good night, Jonathan Milan. And Van der Poel and Van Aert are not projected to do it. It is a different start list. So what are we going to do? It's going to be a small group. Philipsen will do it. I'm going to go with Philipsen back-to-back.
Philipsen back-to-back. Okay. That is interesting. For me, Kuurne, I'm shouting Brennan.
Okay.
I've got a vision again. We want to talk about women's omloop as well. Women's omloop has a start list which Demi Vollering is it's not really confirmed to start list. So there's a lot of teams that we don't have a full confirmation of the team yet. So I assume Demi Vollering will be here and will be one of the candidates to win this. Then I'm looking for SD Works.
Especially last year she won the sprint. This Omloop Women's was the race when FDJ or no one controlled, and then the break one.
Yeah, the break one with a lot of class from, I think, was it Koffides maybe winning at the end of the day? Arkea, one of the two. Anyway, SD Works is here with both Kopecky and Wiebes and Van der Breggen unconfirmed. So let that be clear. So very strong chance that they can compete. And this is written on the same day as the men's race, of course. So we're looking at a tailwind also in the final then on paper. Now, Kat Ferguson here from Movistar has been pretty strong so far this season. Trek is here with the likes of Balsama, but also Shirin van Androoy as a potential option. Anna Henderson, that's the vibe they're going with. Can we see other Nivea Domas here when it comes to Canyon SRAM?
It's a good start list. And it's strange because you have like the best GC riders also at Omloop, but Omloop is hard. The women, when they do the Moor, it's very selective. So I'm going with Demi, revenge of last year, and I kind of like to see her winning a Cobble Classic because she doesn't do the rest of the Cobble Classic. She then picks the Ardennes.
I'm going for a lot of Kopecky returns and wins.
For Ardèche and Drôme Classic, we have French opening weekend, the climbing races in the Ardèche on Saturday and Sunday. These are two beautiful races. We have the European Champs.
You love them.
I love them, yeah. The European Champs course for the first race where they do the Sanremo de l'Europe, about 18-minute climb, 7.5%, some steeper sections, some flatter sections. They descend, and then there's a pancake flat valleys between the climbs, and they do the Val d'Enfer, which is 4 minutes at about 11%, 1.5 Ks, and then they do another like flat lap, then they do that climb, the punchy climb again, and then it's flat finish where Gregoire went the right way, and they went the wrong way last year. He won last year. Drôme Classic is they have about a 6K, 4.5%, 5% climb where Ayuso went solo last year. Skelmoser went out after him. Then they descend, and then there's some more punchy climbs. But this one actually finishes uphill in about a 700 meter, 8%, 7% punch, where Skelmoser was second. Tarlet brought in the group last year. And we have a stacked climbing start list here for both of them. Just Seixas here.
Oi, 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 oi. Gregoire, Kristen, Cosnefroy, Morgado, Jorgensen, Skelmoser, Ben Tullard, Scaroni's here, Lenny Martinez, Omerzel, Egan Bernal, Laurence Godon, Javier Romo. I'm going El Patron. That's probably not worth mentioning.
Brenner was good here. Brenner was good here last year, and he's in good shape.
Widar, Ricky Tello, Ben Healy,
Glogue,
Hirschi, Jordan Giga. We cannot forget the man.
Is he on? Okay.
He's on the phone, Ardèche one. Okay. I'm only looking at one, to be honest. Yeah. Luke's cousin, Alexander Konijn, which is literally Alexander Rabbit. Just wanted to get that out.
What team's he on?
Nice Métropole Côte d'Azur.
Oh. I thought you were about to say Alex Molina. I was like, he actually might be his cousin.
That's his dad.
So Alex
Luke is 12. Child labor.
Good rider. He came second in Duran last year. I can't wait for this race. I mean, it's just so stacked. Maybe I become a hater of Paul Seixas tomorrow.
Oh.
If he goes solo,
why tomorrow on a Thursday?
If he goes on Saturday, if he goes solo on Sanremo de l'Europe, and then for an hour it's him solo, might become a hater.
I think the reason you're saying tomorrow is because you live within like cycling days. So after this podcast, you go to bed and you wake up on Saturday morning.
I thought Ayuso was doing this.
Apparently not.
Ayuso,
I think it's fair. Skelmoser needs something.
Yeah, true.
I heard Quinn Simmons. Simmons is now talking about Amstel Gold Race leadership. A race that Skelmoser won.
Simmons top 4th in Lombardia. Pretty good.
Yeah. From a break though. So
yeah, still. I think I'm gonna say it. UA looked pretty beatable here.
Yeah.
That's
for sure.
McNulty normally does these. Where's McNuggets? Nah, they got to have McNugget. He's so good in these races.
Yeah, but to be clear, the start list is completely unconfirmed, so we could have made up half the start list in our head.
I'm picking race 1, sex ass, group of 3 sprint, and then on Sunday, give me McNuggets.
I'm going for Poel 6 on both. Fuck it, back to back.
Okay, then I'll start being hater. Okay. The salmon race is on Tuesday, I believe, as
the salmon race.
The salmon race, listen, on men and women's. It's a cobbled, light hill circuit, uphill sprint. Van der Poel won last year. Van Aert's doing it this year. So slightly different approach for him.
About that, I was going to ask, doing omloop, doing Samin. I'm not going to ask, I'm going to say it myself. This seems like a different Wout van Aert approach, because in the past it was minimizing his schedule as much as possible, in doing so skipping races that he could win to try and compete in races that he might not be able to win. And this time he's riding, I wouldn't say a lot more, 2 or 3 more races throughout the Classics period that he was skipping last year. I like this version of Wout van Aert a lot. It's a shame that he crashed 2 months ago or a month ago. So we'll see if his level in the first couple of races is.
But wouldn't you rather, as fans, see him in Strada, Samin, and some other one-day races like that instead of Algarve? No, but the alternative race days, the race days might be the same, but instead he does Algarve, where it's I don't really care.
Bro, if I was Wout van Aert, I would send an email to every Belgian ChatGPT race asking $25K for my participation. And I would rack up millions every year solely from the GP Chef Scherens Leuven.
And the UCI points. And then you'd get 5,000 UCI points, and you could drive. You drive there in the morning and drive home in the evening. You stay on 90% level all year, and you get 5,000 UCI points. No one can say you had a bad year with 5,000 UCI points.
And you've got a lifetime contract, so you can do this for the next 15 years if you want.
I would do exactly the same. Altitude camp. I got to compete
10 meters high. That's
I got to compete against Dylan Groenewegen in Montserrat. It's flat. It literally has 1 meter of elevation gain. Okay, I'm looking forward to the salmon. Women's salmon is on Monday. Luke says that's also the Bearbank Le Saman start list. We really don't know. I mean, we don't even have women's omloop start list, so we're guessing in the dark, frankly, there. But that'll be uphill sprint most likely. Kat Ferguson, I'd say she should do that. It suits her pretty
Gillespie.
Well. Gillespie's a good shout. Good shout for her. But yeah, that's our weekly show. We're going to be pumped for the opening classics. Will be straight after omloop with our recap on Saturday afternoon, and then after Kerner. And then we'll see you with the weekly in the next week. Until then, ciao, ciao.